Okay, let's say you walk into a conversation with your narcissistic partner knowing exactly what you want to say. You're completely calm, you're clear headed, and you're not even through the first sentence. And next thing you know, you're the one defending yourself, backtracking, apologizing. And afterwards, you're thinking, what just happened? I'm Lise Leblanc, therapist, author, and life coach, and I'm going to show you exactly what's happening in those moments. And I'll give you 7 ways to tell the difference between a productive and healthy conflict and a control dynamic. And if you stay till the end, I will give you my best tips on how to win the next battle with your narcissistic partner. Okay, so let's jump right in. The first thing you need to understand is that a narcissistic or high conflict partner hits multiple pressure points at once. It's fast, it's intense, and the goal is to overload your nervous system so that you can't think clearly or stay grounded. So it's a triple hit where she attacks your identity, your self worth, and your sense of security almost in one breath. So here's an example. Let's say you bring up something calmly, and instead of addressing the issue, she comes at you. What gives you the right to question me? You call yourself a man? You don't even know what a woman needs. You're lucky to even have me. So she hasn't addressed the issue. Instead, she's attacked those key pressure points: your identity, your self worth, and your sense of security. And that is not healthy conflict. That's control. And here's the part that most men miss. She's not just escalating the argument, she's escalating you by pushing these multiple hot spots at once. So here's 7 ways to tell the difference between healthy conflict and control. So the first thing is, in control dynamics, there's no slowing it down. You can't pause, you can't take a break to regroup. And if you try to slow it down, you get things like, we're not done talking about this. You're always avoiding accountability. You always shut down. Answer me now. So the conversation has to happen right now on her terms and at full intensity. And any attempt to slow it down is reframed as wrongdoing. And that's because control needs speed. Now, if you avoid conflict in all of your relationships, that might be a different story. But many men become conflict avoidant in narcissistic relationships because conflict never leads to resolution. It just leads to escalation, punishment, and exhaustion. And that's when you start avoiding those hard conversations. Not because you can't handle conflict, but because you've learned that in this relationship, conflict doesn't lead anywhere. Second thing is, the issue gets dropped and you become the issue. So you bring something up, it's something specific, and within seconds, it's no longer about what happened. Now it's about you, your tone, your character, your past, your problematic patterns. So you hear things like, you're so selfish, you don't care about me, you're not a real man, everyone sees who you really are. And this is where most men get pulled in. And maybe you start explaining, defending, trying to prove yourself. But the moment you do that, you've already stepped into her frame. And whoever controls the frame controls what the conversation is actually about, who's the problem, and who needs to defend themselves. So the original issue might be you saying something like, I didn't appreciate being lied to last night. But then she shifts the frame to, you're so controlling, you're emotionally unsafe, I can't tell you anything without you overreacting like this. And now the conversation is no longer about her lying to you. Now it's you defending your character inside this frame that she's created. The third thing is, in control dynamics, the rules are constantly changing. So you respond to one accusation, and now that's not the problem anymore. You clarify something, now your tone is the problem. You apologize, now she's bringing up something from 6 months ago. So you fix one thing, and another thing immediately crops up. And this is why these conversations leave you feeling confused and mentally scrambled, because you walk in thinking you're dealing with one issue, but the conversation keeps shape shifting in real time. In healthy conflict, both partners are accountable to the same rules and standards. But in control dynamics, She becomes the judge and you become the defendant. The fourth thing is there's no path to resolution. In healthy conflict, the goal is repair. Maybe it's messy. Yes, emotions can escalate, but eventually both calm down, take some accountability, and figure out how to move forward. In control dynamics, the conversation doesn't end through understanding, it only ends through submission. So you can be 45 minutes into the conversation and you're still having the exact same conversation you were having at minute 5. Same accusations, same loop, same pressure. And the whole time you're thinking, if I can just get her to understand this, we'll finally get somewhere. But there is nowhere to go. You're in a loop because the outcome was decided in advance. And she'll just keep that triple hit on a loop until you admit fault, you back down, you apologize. That's the only way it ends. So if the conversation only ends when you submit, then you know it was never really about solving the issue in the first place. It was about control. The fifth thing is in control dynamics, the threat of abandonment is always present. Sometimes it's explicit, sometimes it's subtle, but you feel it. And if you hold your ground, suddenly she's saying things like, well, maybe we shouldn't be together, or I'm done, or I can't be with someone who, fill in the blank. Or maybe she just goes cold, withdraws emotionally, makes the relationship suddenly feel at risk. And that's when many men fold because now you're no longer focused on solving the issue, you're focused on saving the relationship. That's when you might start chasing, appeasing, over explaining, dropping your standards and boundaries, and taking responsibility for things that you didn't even do. Not because you're weak, but because the fear of abandonment is being used as leverage. And the moment you're willing to abandon yourself to keep her, you've already handed over control. The sixth thing is reality starts to get distorted. In healthy relationships, you may remember things differently. You might disagree on what was said, what was meant, or how something should be interpreted. But in a control dynamic, reality itself starts getting manipulated. Events get rewritten entirely. Details get denied. Your memory gets dismissed. And you might start thinking, did that actually happen? Am I overreacting? Did I read that wrong? Am I the problem? And after a while, you stop trusting your own perception, your own memory. So, in these control dynamics, you leave every conversation more confused. And that is the point because your confusion makes you easier to control. Seventh, in control dynamics, your emotional reaction is always getting used against you. So even if you walk into the conversation calm and clear, after enough accusations, interruptions, blame shifting threats, and pressure, eventually you might react. Maybe you do raise your voice. Maybe you get frustrated. Maybe you do start shutting down. And the moment that happens, the focus immediately shifts onto your reaction. See, that's the problem. You're abusive. You're unstable. You're always shutting down. Look how you act. Why are you yelling at me? And this is what makes these dynamics so psychologically confusing because the provocation gets ignored. So all the time she was yelling at you doesn't matter. It's only your reaction that gets highlighted. And once you understand these patterns, something becomes very clear. You're not dealing with normal conflict. You're dealing with a system that's designed to destabilize you, pull you into negative reactions so that they can gain control. And if you keep approaching these conversations and conflicts like they're a healthy disagreement that can be solved through more explaining and more emotional labor, you'll keep getting trapped in the same cycle. So, what do you do instead? Well, first, start noticing when that triple hit lands and refuse to step into her frame. The moment she attacks your identity, your self worth, and your sense of security, that's when you probably start defending, explaining, appeasing, and chasing connection. Instead of doing that, slow everything down, breathe slowly, lower your voice, and say things like, we need to stick to the original issue. We're not discussing my character here. We can talk about this when things are calmer and leave the room if you need to. Because the moment you stop reacting to emotional pressure and escalation, that's when you stop rewarding it. The second thing is stop using logic to solve emotional control problems. And this is where so many men get trapped because they think if I can just explain this clearly enough, if I could just reason with her, we could solve this. But no, when someone is seeking control to feel emotionally safe, the issue they're presenting is not the real issue at all. The real issue is fear, shame, insecurity, and the inability to regulate internally. So they regulate externally by trying to control you, to try to control the narrative, the interaction, and the environment around them. And once you can see that, you can stop trying to use logic to find your way out of these emotionally chaotic situations. Third, start paying attention to what happens inside of you when you stop giving in. Because over time, her distress became your distress. And your nervous system started organizing around keeping her calm, avoiding her punishments, and trying to get the good version of her to come back around again. So the moment you stop appeasing, stop submitting, stop taking responsibility for everything, anxiety might start to rise inside of you. And that's maybe why you start backtracking, apologizing, chasing, and abandoning yourself. So the real work oftentimes is learning how to tolerate when she's upset, disappointed, dysregulated, or disconnected from you without immediately collapsing into panic, guilt, or self betrayal just to make the tension stop. So the moment your identity, your worth, and your stability depend on her moods, that becomes huge leverage. And all she has to do now is shift her mood, and your entire sense of stability is shaken. And at that point, you're not acting from your values, you're reacting to her volatility. And the hard truth is that control dynamics often don't survive once you stop over functioning and submitting and supplying constant reassurance, appeasement, and emotional regulation. And at that point, it's not connection, it is submission. If this video hit home for you, let me know in the comment section below. And if you're serious about breaking free, I've linked my toxic relationship recovery program below.